Well, I used to be in advertising for quite a bit of time, maybe about 10 years. That was my first career. I was a creative, a writer, and I really enjoyed that for the majority of the time. It was fun to create things to it was also really stressful. And I think towards the end of that, I was really sensing the lack of soul in my
Yeah.
work, which was odd because I was an atheist, so I didn't believe in souls. But I also felt like my work was soulless and really meaningless.
Yeah.
But I was really keen to start working on my trauma because I was becoming aware. I was in my late 20s. I definitely hold trauma in my body. I was reading about Bessel van der Kolk's work and Peter Levine. It's like,
Yeah.
oh, this is something that I need to look at. And I was already interested in psychology at the time. So I went into therapeutic journeys thinking I'm gonna do trauma work. And I don't know if I had that much of that because most of my journeys were mystical and something I would have never expected. I didn't want them. I didn't want to
Yeah.
have mystical experiences. I was an atheist. I was happy with my materialist version of
Yeah.
the world. And it was kind of brutal to, I think within 2 months, my whole worldview changed.
Wow.
And yeah, it was really intense.
I love how, there is a saying with these healing psychedelics that you don't always get what you want, but you get what you need. So yeah, so you weren't planning on suddenly becoming connected to the divine and spiritual aspects,
God, no.
but it really led you down that path. Amazing.
It was amazing, and it was absolutely 100% what I needed, because my version, the way I imagine things, was still from an ego perspective. I just want to get rid of some of my trauma
Yeah.
so I can continue to have a career and a relationship and not change much as a person. And, I still remember one of those journeys I saw at one point. I had non-dual experiences which were wonderful because I was meditating as well. But at one point, I met consciousness or the universe, and I was just in awe. It was, for those of us who've had psychedelics, I think we know how that feels when you contact the source. And I was just floored with respect and awe and joy. And then the universe gave me the finger
I love
and
it.
left me in a void. And that was, I think, my second ever journey and
Wow.
second mystical experience. And I was just sitting there on mushrooms thinking, wow, I met the universe. I met consciousness, and consciousness gave me the finger, told me to fuck off. And I was kind of feeling really sad for myself for a little bit. It's like I don't matter. And then that I don't matter turned into like the most freeing kind of I don't matter and nothing matters and how special life can be. Um, I really needed those experiences to break out of my rigidity. But yeah, it was brutal to integrate because 2 months to change your worldview like that, it's wild. I couldn't go back to advertising. I remember going back to work every day and just kind of hating it and feeling that misalignment so strongly. And then I had a couple more experiences. And I think, all these last 4 years, 5 years actually of retraining have been a way for me to integrate and understand what happened. And in addition to the meaningfulness, I think what these psychedelics journeys showed me was it's humorous. And
Yeah.
Alan Watts writes about this as well. There's something comedic about life, and there's something comedic about meeting consciousness, and consciousness kind of gives you the finger and leaves you, and I all my other experiences have had so much humor in them, which is I think especially when you're processing big things or big trauma, and then you can laugh about it. It's so beautiful, and I think it is for me. I mean, I wonder how much it's biased on my own kind of makeup, psychological makeup, that humor is at the center of it. But I know a lot of people have had an experience of kind of maybe that resonates with you as well.
Absolutely, absolutely. And not just in that sort of respect, but also just in life in general. It's so we have to be able to laugh at the ridiculousness of life, and it is such an important aspect. And so many of us, it's a huge thing that I mention to my clients. I mean, do you have any silliness in your life? Because you really, life is incredibly, can be incredibly challenging, and can be incredibly dark. And we also have the light moments, but the silliness kind of breaks through everything. And it's one thing I love about Alan Watts, and also Ram Dass is another one, just the humor aspect of really bringing in, it's a beautiful part of our humanity. And if we want to celebrate our humanity, it's gotta be in
So
there.
I did a bunch of things. And by doing a bunch of things, I realized, oh gosh, this is not enough. Like I need more and I need to be in a process myself.
Yeah.
And that's why I kind of came upon this training, a transpersonal integrative psychotherapy training that's 4 years. And I'm so glad I did it because it put a lot of things in perspective. First of all, it's been my integration journey, and I think I will still continue to integrate my experiences for a long time. But it's also shown me the depth of this work, whether it's therapeutic work without substances or with substances. This can go really deep, and the depth of understanding the depth of the psyche and the archetypal powers that can come into experiences then gives you it gave me at least a different kind of respect and humility in this work because I still have so much love and respect for
Yes.
psychedelics. Um, that hasn't changed for me. But indeed, I think I've seen and I've heard enough to take a step back, which I have been over the last few years from doing the work myself. Just, I think my therapeutic training has shown me a lot of things that I wasn't aware of before. And studying psychotherapy, working as a psychotherapist with clients, that's work without a substance, but it can be very deep, it can be very powerful. And I learned about things that I hadn't learned about before in my psychedelic work, things like countertransference,
Mm.
or the potential for the power dynamics that happen between a facilitator or a therapist and the client that exist no matter how much we deny them and we say we will work collaboratively. There are power dynamics involved and we need to become aware of them. And also, I think there's a matter of really digging into and understanding things like, well, I mentioned countertransference earlier. This is not a term that most lay people know unless you go through a therapeutic training, but it's a huge thing. And, in therapy, if it's okay if I just explain very
Yes, please
quickly.
do. Please do.
This happens in all relationships, not just therapy or facilitator client relationships. Me and you would have this right now. Transference is just purely my whatever I transfer onto you from my previous experiences. So I am not seeing you clearly right now because I don't know you very well, but also I might think that you remind me of various people in my life and I might expect you to behave in that way.
Yeah.
Um, and we do this so much, especially if we haven't done a lot of work on ourselves, we do this a lot, we project. And countertransference, then, this is something that happens for therapists or facilitators, where because of the client's transference and projections onto them as facilitators or therapists, they will have a reaction. So you are tempted sometimes to respond like people in their lives have responded to them. So say someone had a very critical mother who always put them down and was deprived them of affection and kindness. If you're not aware as a facilitator, if you haven't worked on yourself enough and you're not aware of these feelings bubbling up inside you, you could end up doing that to your client and becoming quite critical of them and, putting them down in different ways, obviously not exactly like the mother. But so this is a very harmless, well, it's harmful, but it's not that big of a deal as an example. But think of this in the context of people who've gone through sexual abuse
Yes.
or through other power dynamics.
Anybody can set up a business and call themselves a shaman.
Oh, or if you're going to spend a couple of $1,000 or pounds to go to a retreat, you might as well do your due diligence and see what that retreat is like and what the facilitators are like. We know there have been a lot of examples of facilitators crossing these boundaries in this psychedelic work with especially around sexuality, and it never goes well. It's never healing. There is a huge shadow in psychotherapy already, and there is a huge shadow in psychedelic therapy. And it comes from people not doing enough of their own personal work. Psychedelics brought me to dreamwork. For a lot of what I have and what I'm interested in today is due to psychedelics. And this exercise showed me so much about myself. And I understood so much from that dream that it just blew my mind. Cultivating this ongoing dream practice made me want to go less to psychedelics because you're tripping every night, right? You have 5 to 7 dreams every night. You might remember one or two of them. That's plenty of material to work with. Set the intention that you want to remember your dream. And if you set that intention, you will remember a dream. Maybe not the first night, but it will happen because the unconscious wants to be known. Psychedelics open us to the imaginal realm, to the unconscious. Dreams do that every night. Sharing your dreams, one of the theories, there are many theories about the functions of dreams. No one can say that this is the one function, but one of them is to build empathy and strengthen our social connections. And the dreams you have around the time are incredibly powerful, and they usually teach you about what the work is about. Dream work is really deep. It's kind of like psychedelic work. So to keep people safe, it's good to be in some sort of therapy or coaching or container.
In this moment, there's nothing to do. You are simply resting in awareness, allowing things to be as they are. And as you continue to breathe naturally, let's expand our awareness to include the mind itself. And notice thoughts as they arise, without trying to push them away or cling to them. Thoughts come and go like clouds in the sky. They form, shift, and dissolve, all within the same space of awareness. And become aware that behind every thought, sensation, or feeling, there is a vast, clear space of awareness. This is where thoughts appear and where they pass away. But this space, this awareness, remains constant and open. And you are resting in that awareness now, simply noticing the play of thoughts and perceptions as they rise and fall. And as we go deeper, reflect on the nature of your mind and the realm of dreams. Just as thoughts appear spontaneously, dreams also arise from within you. They are symbols, images, and experiences that emerge without effort. And in dreams, much like in life, you are both the experiencer and the creator. Imagine now that you are entering a dreamlike space. This is the landscape of your inner world, where images and memories float up from the depths of your consciousness. In this space, you are fully conscious, aware of the dream as it unfolds. There is no separation between the dream and the awareness observing it.
could sing or play an instrument for you, I would sing and play an instrument for you. If I could dance for you, I would dance for you. If I could paint for you, I would paint for you. But my thing is words. But the problem about words is that you may listen to them.
And that would be a mistake.